A busy man is rarely visited by idle people, as friends tend to avoid the company of idle individuals. No fly should go near a boiling pot, as imminent harm would result. When reflecting on the past, we may come to the conclusion that the years of struggle may, in retrospect, appear to be the most meaningful and significant. The most essential part of our journey is inner self-discovery, which we can enhance by listening to the words of Sigmund Freud. The apparent visibility of a person on the outside often hides an internal complexity, and the more someone appears to be perfect on the outside, the more internal demons may be present. The only comparison that really matters is the one between what we were in the past and what we are in the present. Unexpressed emotions never disappear. Instead, they are buried alive and emerge later in less attractive ways. Depression is like a frozen fear, and lack of shame is an early indication of stupidity. Before diagnosing whether you really have depression or low self-esteem, it is essential to check that you are not simply surrounded by a sequence of errors. We discover the complete truth when we don't get what we want, and at that moment, it is essential to learn to value what we already have. Age should not be an obstacle to thinking, and action is a manifestation of thinking. Friendship is an art that involves keeping a distance, while love is an art that involves intimidation. Freedom is often avoided due to fear of the responsibility it brings with it. The pursuit of perfection can impede progress, as the best often becomes the enemy of the good. Honesty with yourself is a beneficial exercise. In relationships, a husband is often seen as a substitute for the beloved, rather than the beloved himself. Family dynamics often revolve around the person most harmed. Words have a remarkable power to generate both happiness and despair. The death of a father is a significant event in a man's life, often accompanied by great pain. People often keep their sexual issues secret, disguising them under a veil of lies, as if it were a taboo topic in the world of sexual relationships. When we love, we are at our most vulnerable, and the loss of a loved one or love can be devastating. Envy is a destructive emotion that must be avoided. Living by our own rules is fundamental. Religion can be seen as a universal compulsion and a form of neurosis. Recognizing a problem is the first step to solving it. Confidence and boldness grow when we are sure we are loved. The voice of the intellect is constant, but we often only hear listeners when we are free from sexual concerns. Sexuality is an important aspect of life, and surprise can lead to psychological problems. Knowing the world and understanding our own emotions is a journey that allows us to grow and find strength in our vulnerability. Confidence and boldness grow when we are sure we are loved. The voice of the intellect is constant, but we often only hear listeners when we are free from sexual concerns. In a woman's being, love and hunger are intertwined elements. When we love, we are at our most vulnerable, and the loss of a loved one or love can be devastating. Masturbation is one of the primary addictions, and subsequent addictions, such as alcohol, tobacco, and morphine, are often just substitutes for this original addiction. A joke is a way of satisfying lustful or hostile instincts by overcoming obstacles in a socially acceptable way. The first human being who used an insult instead of throwing a stone was the pioneer of civilization. Freud compares the mind to an iceberg, only a small part of which is visible above the water. He reminds us to seek strength and confidence internally, as they have always been present within us. An energetic and successful person is one who can transform their desire fantasies into reality. We should not try to eliminate our complexes, but rather reconcile ourselves with them as they shape our conduct in the world. In relationships, after marriage, people often live no longer for each other, but with each other through third parties. This can lead to dangerous rivalries. Family life is often organized around the person most harmed in it. Words have a magical power, capable of generating both the greatest happiness and the deepest despair. The death of a father is a significant event in a man's life, often a most painful and heartbreaking loss. People are generally not sincere when it comes to sexual matters, often hiding their sexuality under layers of lies, as if it were a storm regarding sexual relations. Vulnerability is most evident when we are in love. Envy is a destructive emotion that must be avoided. Religion can be seen as a universal compulsion and a form of neurosis. Recognizing a problem is the first step to solving it. How tall someone becomes when they are sure of being loved. The voice of the intellect is calm, but it never tires of repeating its words. Only the complete absence of sexual activity can be considered sexual deviance, with everything else being a matter of preference. In small matters, it is advisable to trust the mind, while in big matters, trust the heart. Sometimes a man shows greater generosity when he has limited resources, possibly to avoid the thought that he is like everyone else. The extent of someone's personality is defined by the magnitude of the problem they can face and overcome. Often, we seek more to alleviate our own suffering than to obtain pleasure. Illness is costly in life, and ignoring it is a mistake. Often, we can only appreciate pleasure when contrasted with its absence. People have more complex morals than they generally realize, and they are often more immoral than they would like to admit. Our interpersonal relationships are not the result of chance, they often reflect elements of our subconscious. Freud reminds us that the key to understanding the human soul lies in the psychological experiences of childhood. The first human being to throw an insult instead of a stone is considered the pioneer of civilization. The human mind is compared to an iceberg, with most of it hidden beneath the surface. We must always seek strength and confidence within ourselves, as these qualities have always been present within us. Energetic and successful people are those who turn their desire fantasies into reality. Complexes should not be eliminated, but rather understood and accepted, as they influence our conduct in the world. After marriage, relationships often change, with people living with each other through third parties and often facing dangerous threats. People often hide their sexuality under layers of lies, as if it were a taboo topic in sexual relationships. We are most vulnerable when we love, and the loss of the object of our love can be devastating. How can you? Freud dedicated his life to developmental and mental health research. We hope these quotes have piqued your interest and helped you get to know yourself better. Thank you for watching this video.